The same is true about our beliefs about ourselves. So if we believe that we really don't have value and that nobody wants to listen to us or engage with what we have to say, we're going to spend less time in communicating. We're going to spend less time in developing ourselves. Hello, I'm Joshua, to be creating different videos. This is a second type of video that I want to make, one that's a lot more casual, more rambling, more thinking, more vlog style, as we talk about the different aspects of what's going on and why we're doing what we're doing and going through this whole process. So we created a video, very emotional, very trying to pull on people's desires and emotions, and with that video we edited it. We did a lot higher editing exposure on it and added music. This video is very different, but I do want to continue talking about the idea of value, and starting with the question for myself is it's like, well, why start with value? Why start with this idea? And really going into the concept of value, I start to realize that a lot of the reason that we do things, a lot of the reason that we go through our life and make decisions is based on our beliefs, what we think about things, how we view the world, whether it's a financial decision or emotional decision or a relational decision. A lot of those things are based on our beliefs. If we have a relationship and we believe that the other person wants to spend time with us, then we will be more engaged in the conversation and we will be more interactive with that idea and that person and be able to talk, and all of that comes from a belief. If we believe the person is not interested in what we have to say and not really present, then we're going to approach the conversation differently. The same is true about our beliefs about ourselves. So if we believe that we really don't have value and that nobody wants to listen to us or engage with what we have to say, we're going to spend less time in communicating. We're going to spend less time in developing ourselves. I know that's true for myself. I haven't really spent the time that I need to really develop my communication style, develop the way that I communicate. And partly that's because I didn't feel like I had value, like the things that I had to say mattered. And so going through that process of developing that belief, I do have value, what I say does matter, and somebody may want to listen to it. But even if they don't, going through this process of recording and creating these videos and doing all of this has really helped me develop my value and be able to be more authentic to myself, be able to communicate better, being able to realize that at least for me and for my wife, she will want to hear what I have to say, and maybe somebody else will as well. But even just at the beginning of this whole process, really recognizing the importance of my value and the importance of that belief, and that I need to continue to develop that, realizing that this is very much the beginning of that journey. I have done a lot of work over the last 30 years of developing my understanding of my value. Some of it came through my family. Some of it came through relationships. The biggest way has been in the last 10 years through the relationship with my wife. And really her belief in me and in my value has really helped me get to a place where I am more comfortable both speaking in public, speaking to others, and speaking in general, just because she believes in me. And I think that's where I go into these three aspects of our beliefs, or three aspects of our values, or of our relationships. And I think that that's the three aspects about them that I would like to bring out in this video. Is the first one is, what do I believe about myself? And then what do others believe about myself or that value? It doesn't have to be about yourself. It can be about value, or it can be about anything. And then the third aspect would be, what is true? And a lot of times we go through one or two of those aspects, and generally the truth isn't from one perspective or the other perspective of one individual. If you're talking about a relationship, or if you're talking about as we're talking about right now, my value, I can talk about what my value is from my perspective, and it's nowhere near as high as value of what my wife thinks, and that is from a place of what I believe her to think. So it's my belief is that she views me in a higher value than I do even of my own, and that pushes me to a place of, okay, I can be better, I can do more, because there is a value equation that is different, what she thinks of my value and what I think of my value. And there's some combination of that, maybe that is true, or maybe there isn't. Maybe there's even a completely different perspective that's actually true, a greater, deeper perspective that isn't just the combination of what she thinks or what I think. I know that truth isn't something that is subjective. It is objective. There is a truth that is concrete. And I don't think that you can get there just from your perspective of yourself or somebody else's perspective of yourself. It's both in community and in self-discovery, but a lot of it comes through your journey and through engaging with others, through development, to getting to a place where you understand a little bit better what is actually true. And so bringing up those three different components, really the third one is probably the most important, but it's the hardest one to actually figure out. What is the truth? And so really focusing on the first two is where the vast majority of our time will be spent. You can do an audit and be like, okay, this is what I believe, this is what the people around me believe, and start to figure out a little bit more of the truth, and over time get to a place where you're more and more accurate on what is this actual value. And that's a big component of what I want to do in this series, of what I want to bring out in this series, is you can't really find out what your value is by yourself. You can't completely find it out from others. You have to go through a process of both discovery and also of engagement with others to really figure out what that's. And we're going to go through this process as I discover how to do that, and hopefully I can help you as well to discover that for yourself. Continuing the question of why talk about value, why talk about our own worth. One of the other components of why this is so important is because the more value that you have, or you're aware of that you have, the more confident you will be, the more engaging you will be, the more time you will put into developing that skill of being confident, being engaging, being able to talk, being able to present yourself, and the clearer your message will be to the world. And so as you kind of map out your life and look at where your value really comes from, and you really find which part of it is really value from productivity, from external sources, from the relationships that I have, from the things that I do, and you really start to find that your value is primarily composed of external things, not internal things, it is very eye-opening. And you start to really focus in on how this really affects your life, and looking at the different relationships that you had throughout your life and how your value was impacted with them, especially your immediate family, your parents, and looking at that and really saying, okay, did my parents instill in me a value for myself and a value for the world, and to what extent? And when you really look at that and look at the relationships, and you're like, well, for me, they really instilled a value towards achievements, not so much towards my own value. I look at the relationships and I say, well, how many activities did we do together? When I look at the stories and I say, well, how many times did my family or my parents really spend with me developing this aspect? They did do it to some extent, but there was some areas that really were developed later on in life with other relationships. And so as you kind of map out your life and look at where your value really comes from, and you really find which part of it is really value from productivity, from external sources, from the relationships that I have, from the things that I do, and you really start to find that your value is primarily composed of external things, not internal things, it is very eye-opening. And so I've definitely seen the benefit already of going along this journey. It's really about figuring out who I am and figuring out how I want to engage with the world, figuring out what the message is that I want to give to the world, and figuring out how well I understand that message. And I think for this first week, really continuing to delve into the idea of value and talking about different aspects throughout different videos is going to be really a great starting point. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for engaging with this. If you've gotten this far, you're one of the first. Maybe you're the first that has seen any of my content. And so thank you.